Hey guys, today I am here to answer the question that I've been getting asked numerous times every day. Is this passive good? Is this passive combination good? Should I reroll this passive? Should I keep this passive? What passive should I go for if I have this passive? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I have a passive tier list that I made a year ago or about a year ago. I don't know, basically before the game died. Now, you guys have been saying every time I tell you, go check out the passive tier list. Oh, but Niels, the passive tier list is outdated. So yeah, since that's a problem for most of you guys, today I decided to make a new passive tier list for update 37. And yeah, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna check out the passives. Now, passive-wise, nothing has really changed, but I guess people have done more quote-unquote extensive researches as to what's good and what isn't good. But anyway, let's jump into the tier list that I made, the new updated tier list that I have made, and here it is. So starting off, S plus tier list. These are absolutely the two most broken passives in the game. Nothing comes close to them. And first of all, we have Protagonist. Now, Protagonist gives 35% damage boost, 25% attack speed and movement speed, but that's not why it's actually so good. The thing that makes Protagonist so good is the fact that you can exceed level cap by plus 10 levels. That makes your units completely stupid in terms of like row scaling, damage numbers, and yeah, Protagonist is basically the new meta, especially with this update, with leveling being so freaking easy, with the updated incubators and with the time artifact change that pretty much just made our time multiplier go bonkers. You can literally hit up to 40x time, which is kind of absurd. I don't know, thinking about having 40x time. But yeah, anyway, Protagonist is pretty much, if you want to be a top player, Protagonist is the first passive that you need to get. You need to level your units by plus 20 levels, considering you can get 2 Protagonists, and then you have to roll them off for the next passive in our S plus list here, God passive. Now, God passive is absolutely bonkers. It does literally everything. We get a 2.2x damage multiplier, so 120% damage bonus, 50% attack speed, -2 less attacks for your units to cast their ultimate ability, and 80% increased ultimate damage. We also have some movement speed increase, Usain Bolt cosplay, and a little bit of damage right here, or rather a little bit of size. Because, you know, as some of the ladies say, size matters. So yeah, these two are a passive on their own level, like nothing comes close to them. And yeah, apparently people have tested the best combo in the game right now is double god passive. So yeah, that's pretty much what you're aiming for. You want to get one god and another god after 2 protagonists and leveling up your units. So that's pretty much it, pretty self-explanatory. S plus category, double protagonist, reroll to double god. You have the best unit in the game. Moving on to S tier, we have Lightspeed, the summer only passive, which can also be rolled from the Requiem machine, which is sort of a buffed rerolls machine that has slightly better rolls, but the reroll tokens for that machine are slightly harder to get, so that's something to keep in mind. Lightspeed, 80% damage, 350% attack speed bonus, and to compensate that, obviously, because your units would be permanently casting ultimates, we have plus 10 hits to ultimate. So compare that with Hydra Burst Illusion. Your units are just attacking like absolute lunatics and they pump out infinite damage. We also have 30% or rather 0.3 time multiplier, which is why Lightspeed is so great utility wise as well, since time is probably the most valuable resource in the game, arguably. Maybe drops is, I don't know. I think time is still more important because it does more stuff for you. Although drops is also very important, but we're not gonna have this discussion. And it gives you 5x movement speed as well. Lightspeed is also the next best passive after God. It's completely bonkers. And after that, surprisingly guys, we do have Mercenary, which might be a mythical passive, but on boss, this passive is actually bonkers. Off the boss, it's completely useless. It's probably a B tier passive off the boss, maybe a low A tier passive, but on the boss, this passive is amazing. It gives you 65% bonus damage. That's baseline for anything you hit, and then on top of that, another 40% plus damage, 20% ultimate damage, and 20% attack speed. I don't know why it says ATL here, nothing with Atlanta. Now, the downside for this is that you actually get a a negative yen multiplier, and it also cuts your drops by half. So that's the downside, that you're gonna have a harder time farming yen. But in terms of raw damage output, Mercer is insane. After that, we have Monster and Time Lord. You guys know those secret passives. Monster gives 80% damage and 25% attack speed. Like, it's an insane stat padding passive. Like, it's the strongest stat padding passive. Like, on paper, your units will look absolutely bonkers, but in reality, they're really not that strong. Monster is not that great of a passive, and honestly, I think Time Lord is even better. I probably should have put Time Lord in third place instead of Monster, but yeah, those are pretty close as well. Now, Time Lord, 50% damage plus 5 hits for ultimate because it has 3x attack speed increase and 25% time, 0.25. It's basically the primary version of light speed. Like, Time Lord was the first version, and then they just introduced light speed. That's just a much better version of a Time Lord. That's pretty much all there is to it. Moving on, we have our beloved Ace, 40% damage and 100% crit. Now, this passive in comparison, or rather not in comparison, like together combined with God or with Mercenary is pretty insane. That's why we have it in the S tier list. Ace, very underrated. Don't sleep on it, guys. Obviously, if you use Ace passive, you don't want to be using Indivore as an avatar. You want to be using the Vegito avatar for the extra damage. But yeah, a very underrated passive. It's really freaking good. Don't sleep on it. And yeah, moving on. Flaming. Flaming is one of the mythicals from the summer passives that are time limited, I guess, so they won't be around in probably about a month from now. But since it's still in the game, we might as well just include them in the list. Flaming, 2x damage, 20% attack speed, so it's really not that bad. It's pretty decent. It's kind of like a tiny that's on a much larger scale. I don't know if that's a good comparison, actually. Maybe it's like a better version of Ghostly, even though it gives less attack speed. I don't know, whatever. Also, how you have that 50% movement speed and 50% size, and the aura for Flaming looks pretty clean as well. So it's definitely an S minus, I would say, passive, but it's definitely better than anything in the A tier. That's why we put it a little bit last in S tier. Next up, in A tier, we have Ghostly, 50% damage, 50% attack speed, and 10x movement speed. Like, it's a pretty good passive, gives bonkers of attack speed. So very good passive to combine with stuff like God, Mercenary, and stuff like that, like Monster. It's a very good passive all in all. A tier passive, definitely. Moving on, we have Sorcerer, 20% damage and 80% ultimate damage and minus 4 hits to ultimate, actually. So if you're playing a passive like Sorcerer, it's definitely not a bad passive. Definitely belongs in the A tier list, especially after it got buffed. I actually pushed for it to get buffed last year, and that's how it ended up being buffed. But it's still not performing, obviously, anywhere near the best passives from the mythical category, but still it's pretty good. Just always make sure that when you're using a Sorcerer, because of the minus 4 hits to ultimate, you need a unit with a lot of attacks. Probably Introversed is a very good one. Maybe Luffy, something like that. But yeah, you need a unit that has a very high attack count for its ultimate so that it doesn't get ult locked. Moving on, we have Blessing, pretty self-explanatory. It's sort of like the mini version of Monster. It just gives 80% flat damage multiplier. Doesn't really do anything else besides that. It might be a good passive for new players, but all in all, it's really not that impressive. Moving on, we have Relaxed. Relaxed now, 2.5x damage. It's a very big multiplier as well. It's actually very close to Monster. That being said, due to the fact that it has a minus 30% attack speed, it doesn't actually do that much damage like an actual like DPS, even though it's good on paper, so that's why it's where it is. It also has the 50% movement speed reduction, which is kind of annoying, even though talents can salvage movement speed for the most part, especially a little bit broken units, but it's very annoying to have like units that are slow, so we'll just dump it at the bottom of the A tier. And next up we have Tactical, 2 times more damage, so 100% damage increase, but it's only against bosses. It's completely useless against units, so it's really not that hot anymore. Once upon a time, Tacticals were really good if you were like a boss hitter or something, but nowadays it's not so hot. We'll still put it though in the dead last spot of the A tier. Next up, we have Tank and Giant, very similar passives. They both give a 65% damage increase. They also have a movement speed slow. Well, at least Tank has a movement speed slow, and so does Giant. So we'll just put them right there. Giant is actually better than Tank. I don't know why I put Tank above Giant, but whatever. Don't mind me too much, guys. Just a small mistake. And moving on, we have Solid Gold. Now, Solid Gold, you might be wondering, why did I put this below Tank and Giant? And the reason for that is actually that Solid Gold has that minus 25% attack speed. So you basically have to think about that you're losing 1/4 of your damage because your unit attacks slower. That's why it's there. It also is a little bit slower, but it does have that sweet yen multiplier increase, which is really good, especially for people that are probably grinding yen because they don't have like sufficient yen amounts. But it's still a pretty good passive for damage. We'll put it in the B tier. And next up we have Strong 3, just 50% damage right there. It's the best epic passive that you can get. As you guys can see in the list as well, there's no other epic passives. It's just like that one. There's no other epics in the list. And next up we have General. Now, General gives 0.3x team damage. It's not really a passive that is actually increasing your unit's damage, but we are gonna put it there at the B tier because I think it's better than all of the other passives, like for damage increase on your units. Now, Generals are a very big part of your team, even in the end game. And basically, the plan with like leaders and generals goes as is. If your units are not balanced, like if you have one unit that's super strong, for example, let me tab back into the game right now. And you see here, so I have this dice, right? Well, now it's 48Y. Yesterday, I had Monster on it and it was like 89.2Y, right? This Daiso. So like if I have a 450 Daiso and all of the rest of my other units are like 440, you obviously see the damage, yeah? Like 6 times 8 is 48, so this is like 8 times stronger than this, numeric wise as well, and even more because of God. Like, it's better if you use general and leader units to buff this guy. So it's something that you should keep in mind. But if you are like at the end stages of the game and you can clone like your units 10 times and you have 10 equal units, then generals lose value. But we'll still put it in the B tier. It's still a very good passive. It's just that this tier list is based on damage. That's why I didn't really put it higher. But technically, this one should be in A tier for its utility and what it does if used properly. And lastly, in C tier, we have Draconic. It gives 50% damage, kind of like a strong 3, but it does have a 20% slower attack speed, which is kind of bad. And you do get your drops as well, which is very nice. It's the best passive for your drops team. You need one of these in case you don't know, but most of you probably do watching this video. Then we have Tiny, 20% damage and 50% attack speed. And then we have obviously Leader 3, which is pretty much a slightly worse version of General, the Summer Leader 3, which I talked about like about a minute ago. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for the tier list. I doubt most of you guys watched this video up until this point, but if you did, type in chat, what do we type? 241W. Type that in the chat if you watched up until this point. W viewers, but yeah, anyway, guys, there you have it. Since you've been asking for an updated passive tier list, here you go. And that's pretty much it for this video. As always, if you guys have enjoyed, make sure to click the like and subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys all on the next one. Take care.